But now we have a whole range of experts joining us to give us some more trading ideas. Sudarshan Sukhani, Amit Gupta of ICICI Direct, and in a bit we'll get some more experts on board as well. Gentlemen, morning to all of you. Sudarshan, I'm going to start off with you. One day ahead of expiry, how do you trade the Nifty today?
That's become a difficult question today. The Nifty is not doing anything. After a breakout above 8200, it should have gone up, but there is significant stalling and resistance has come in at the 8300 zone. And that's not good news for the bulls and for the buyers and for people who are upbeat like me. So how do you trade the Nifty? I think the undertone of the market is slightly becoming subdued. So below 8200, I would be a seller in the Nifty. I would be a short seller. I would start with an intraday trade on the short side, keep a 50-point stop loss, which is 8250, and then this is not a high conviction trade, but the charts are suggesting mild weakness rather than strength.
Okay, morning Sudarshan. Isn't the bank Nifty even more confusing? How does one trade that one?
Well, actually both are confusing. What has happened in the Nifty is Nifty has come down to its 8200 support level, and surprisingly the Bank Nifty is relatively outperforming the Nifty. It's only relative, not much. But the Bank Nifty is a short sell. For the Bank Nifty, you keep a stop at 17,900 and look to go and sell. A whole range of PSU banks in the Bank Nifty are giving signs that they are breaking down. That may not happen, but we have to follow the signs.
Well, fundamentally, there is a lot of problem with the banking space, no doubt. I'll come back to you for your individual stocks in just a minute. Amit, good morning to you. Your take on the Nifty?
See, last week we had sold Bank Nifty 17,500 put and 18,000 call option at 300 rupees. That has come down to 40-50 rupees now. So that is how the premiums are falling in this series. I told this before also that this is a long series, and historically we have seen whenever in the initial part of the long series market moves with the bank, then the rest of the part it remains very lackluster because people try to go long in call and puts where they lose money, and generally the seller of the options only they make money in such kind of long series. So till expiry, I don't see any kind of large move now in the Nifty. If you look at the 83 call options, so ultimately they have been the winner because the premiums have come down to 15-16 rupees now. So the call writers who were active there, they have made money. If you look at the 8100 put options also, they have also made money because the premium is very minuscule. Now the highest put base is placed at 8200 put option, but we have closed yesterday below 8250. So that means there may be some kind of lackluster to weak move in the market now. If you look at the volume weighted average price, that is placed at 8130 levels. So my sense is from here till expiry, that means another couple of sessions, 8130 to 8250. That may be the range of the market. So how to play this range? I think 8200 call and put options, if somebody can sell at 80-85 rupees, so that may be a good trade. Eventually these premiums will start coming down.
Okay, well, Sudarshan, just coming to the individual stocks that you are recommending for the day, you have a buy on Ajanta Pharma. Is that a new one on your list?
No, it's come earlier also, and because broadly we are upbeat on pharma stocks. Ajanta Pharma had a big decline, and after that decline, a consolidation. It's resumed its up move. The up move is a step by staircase move. It goes up, then it goes into a huddle, a consolidation, then it renews its up move. So after a 4-day correction, yesterday it broke out of that correction mode. I think there's more upside here in a market that is choppy. Well, it's probably better to go out of the Nifty sometimes. So I would be a buyer here, more than a day trade. It's something if we hold on for a few days, that should be rewarding.
Actually, both of you are dabbling more in mid-cap stocks today. Sudarshan, barring a couple, you also have more mid-cap advice, and so does Amit. But wait, first let's get Mayuresh in as well into this conversation and set the stage for some of the important ingredients of the bank Nifty. Morning, Mayuresh. Axis. How do you trade that now? It's only after market hours that one got to learn that the sale to the ARC's asset reconstruction companies was a whole 1850 crore of assets, and then we also learned that those two 525 refinanced projects are about 1500, which means the bad loans were, or the stressed loans were over 4000 crores. Should the markets take in some fresh negatives?
Morning, Lata. I think clearly, yes, I think after the news of the ARC sale has come through, I think you're talking about the restructured book or the stress assets portfolio of the bank probably taking a hit even going further. So clearly, I think the kind of exposure that the bank had towards the infrastructure sector was always something of a risk element that the bank faced. But clearly, I think when you're talking about such numbers, I think a negative impact will come through on the stock, at least for today. But over a longer time frame, our belief still remains that once the stress on this sector starts coming down over the next few quarters, and Axis Bank already has done counter-cyclical provisions to a decent extent. Again, I think credit costs, in our opinion, at 80-90 pips that the bank is indicating, and that we worked on our Excel sheets as well. I think that is indicating and creating a decent amount of buffer for anything incrementally that goes wrong. But yes, I think the figure that has probably come through will be taken negatively by market, at least for today's trade. But over a longer time frame, if the stock does correct, I think our belief is that the earnings growth for the bank should sustain over the next 4 to 6 quarters, and over that time frame I think we remain extremely optimistic on the stock.
Sudarshan, what does the chart say?
Well, I'm upbeat on Axis Bank now. There could be a reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. It's also possible that the charts could morph into something bearish. But as of now, none of the three large private sector banks have any reason to be short in ICICI, HDFC Bank and Axis. So the shorting and the bank Nifty's weakness is probably going to come from the other private sector banks and the PSUs.
Okay, so apart from, okay, you did mention the PSU, so let's finish that discussion. You have a sell call on Bank of Baroda this morning?
Yeah, Bank of Baroda is now breaking down from a support level. It's already done that yesterday afternoon. That's disappointing. The rally apparently was a relief rally, not just in Bank of Baroda, but in most PSU banks. I think the only exception I can find is Syndicate Bank, which keeps on making these subsequent higher closes, higher highs. But all PNB, for example, did nothing in the rally. Can Bank is rolling over and coming on the downside. UCO Bank is a slightly better chart, but not much more. It's also stopping and stalling. Today's choice is Bank of Baroda because it's breaking down, and Bank of Baroda has been one of the better banks in the PSU sector in terms of a price action. So there's a disappointment here in this sector. I just named the banks because you could actually sell anything. We prefer to go with Bank of Baroda, that's all.
Okay, point taken. Amit, any banks that you would sell? It's not in your list.
See, I think the PSU banking only can be looked at because it was only State Bank of India which was outperforming in the recent move. It was around above 250 and the 250 call writers were active. But despite this, it was trading above that. But rest of the pack was really lackluster. So I think another couple of sessions you will see the long unwinding pressure. And mind you, I mean, these are all the small prices stocks, and the next month, next series, we are going to see the higher margins. So there may be a pressure of the closer of those positions also, those who don't want to put higher margins and carry forward the positions in them.
Okay. Mayuresh, you've picked out a couple of stocks for us for the long-term investor. One of them is Minda Industries. What's the story there? I mean, it's you know, done extremely well in the auto ancillary space, but what could be the triggers here on?
Morning, Sonia. I think, yes, I think the stock has performed exceedingly well, and last quarter's numbers, in our opinion, were a tad bit disappointing. However, going forward, our take is that with 40% contribution coming in from switches, 27% coming in from the horn segment, 19% coming in from the lighting segment, and the remainder 14% coming in from value adds like fuel caps, cylinder valves. The company is well placed to service OEM players like Honda, Hero MotoCorp, Hyundai. And again, I think the numbers there have been quite encouraging. Going forward, our take is that the subsidiaries that Minda had, the overseas subsidiaries, I think they're performing exceedingly well. So Minda Koryuku and the Clayton Horn subsidiary has posted profits of 5 crores against losses of 19 crores in FY14. And clearly we're seeing some amount of EBITDA expansion to the tune of 100-110 bips over the next 2 years over these subsidiaries. And clearly even the top line growth is expected to be in double digits. On the domestic side of the business only. I think clearly if you're looking at the value adds that the company is getting through, they're getting into electronic horns, they're getting into the alloy wheel segment in tie-up with Koseyu. And again, I think all these aspects would aid their top line growth going forward. So our take is that a decent top line growth over the next 2 years of 15% with top line touching 2,965 odd crores over the next 2 years is not ruled out. The blip that we saw in margins in the last quarter should start normalizing, and EBITDA margin should start touching that 7.88% mark by 517, which will have a triple effect on the bottom line. Again, I think the company is well poised, as I said, in the OEM segment, and valuation is extremely attractive at this point of time. So I think we stick with our target price of 652 onto the stock over the next 12 months.
All right. Thanks for that comprehensive analysis, Mayuresh. Then let me get to some more stocks from Sudarshan. Sudarshan, you have a sell or you have a buy on LIC Housing, and while you give us that strategy, do tell me how HDFC will move today.
Well, LIC Housing has been in that outperforming housing loan sector. For the last 5 or 6 days, it's been in a trading range, but that trading range is giving clear signs of an imminent breakout on the upside. Now that happens today or tomorrow is a different issue, because if markets are subdued, this could simply be postponed. But I would still be a buyer here. The chances are that whenever the markets renew their advances or on good days, LIC Housing should then break out and move much higher. How do I trade HDFC today? That was LIC Housing. I would be a buyer in HDFC today. If there is any weakness in the markets in the morning or after midday, I'll wait. But once the market stabilizes, even at a lower level, HDFC is a buying opportunity. That was just a knee-jerk reaction in what is apparently one of the best stocks in the Nifty.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Amit, talking about some of the pharma names, Lupin was the big loser yesterday post its numbers, but you have a strategy on Cipla this morning?
See, I think the better results, as I speak to the fundamental analysts, better results are expected from Cipla this time. And if you see the move now, there was a sharp move towards these levels, and then it remained sideways. Now, on October 20th precisely, there was some adverse news flows and the stock came down. But again, at the lower levels of 650, 660, we have seen very high delivery pickup in the stock. If you look at the volumes, it was almost 2 to 3 month high. So that means the buying support has come back into the stock. And if you look at the open interest positions, there has been continuous closure. If you look at the last 2 or 3 series, because when it fell from 750 to 650, almost 65% of short addition we had seen, out of which 48-45% has already fizzled out. So that means the short covering trend is panning out in the stock, and it is possible towards the result announcement it should move higher. Now, looking at yesterday's very late move on the higher side, because it started picking up very late, I think the call options can be looked at for the couple of days now. So we are picking 680 call option to buy, because that was the noticeable high call base. So I expect some short covering to happen in that call. So the premiums will pick up very soon. So I think from the current levels of 6 to 7, it should move to 14-15 rupees. So one can buy this 680 call option of Cipla for another couple of sessions of October series.
All right. On that note, Sudarshan, how would you tackle Lupin chartically?
Well, Lupin has seen a decline, and that tells us that we step aside till this decline stops. But at some point, the stock is a buying opportunity. I don't think generally pharma stocks should be short sold. We should be patient enough for them to stop whatever little corrections they go through and then buy them.
Okay, fair enough. So coming back to some of the other stocks that you've picked up, Sudarshan, from the real estate space, you have a sell call on DLF this morning?
Yes, I would feel that the up move in DLF is over. There was a steady and strong up move. Day after day, the stock went up at some point, and the 135, 140 point level, it started facing resistance, and a fresh downtrend has started. Now, whether this is a deep correction or it's that rally was a relief rally is something we'll know later. But I would assume that that was a relief rally, and the trend in DLF remains down. It's an easy short. You sell it, it's now on the verge of breaking from a support level. So there's some money on the short side.
What about Yes Bank? It had fallen a lot, and yesterday it seemed to put a floor. Sudarshan?
Well, yes, it has. But the the charts are not as say cheerful as they would be for HDFC Bank or even Axis Bank, although there may be some news there. But Yes Bank tells us that perhaps the rally is probably a part of a larger distribution. So it's not a buying opportunity.
Fair enough. I think we didn't discuss NTPC with you. That's almost like a fixed deposit.
I hope so. That's why we want to buy it. NTPC is a nice, good chart. Rally, 3-day narrow range, and what I hope is a resumption of the rally. If the stocks opens lower, good for us. You can actually, traders can buy it lower. As you just described it well, it's like a fixed deposit. If you take a position here and hold it for a few months, I think there's a lot of money.
How about Power Grid?
Power Grid has an equally good chart. For the in recent days, it's been choppy. So there is perhaps an opportunity to enter. It will come later. That's the only difference between the two. Either of them could be held and then probably be a reasonable reward giver.
Okay, Mayuresh, I wanted to talk to you about, this one of the stocks of yesterday, which was TVS Motor. It was up 13% post its numbers and margins now at record highs for the company. Would you be advising investors to buy this stock?
So Sonia, I think not at this point of time, and clearly I think if you look at the margin expansion, I think largely aided with the fall in commodity prices, and the management itself was very clear that the fall in commodity prices is going to aid margins for the next 2 quarters, to say the least. Having said that, I think the launches that TVS Motor had done, Jupiter, Apache, I think the product mix was quite decent. I think that also aided the top line growth. There was improvement in realizations as well, and that probably has also aided the top line for the company. But going forward, I think the management is extremely optimistic in terms of a double-digit growth when it comes to the EBITDA and the profitability as well. However, I think if you exclude the commodity part of the entire margin expansion, I think there has also been some amount of squeeze that TVS Motors has probably done towards its vendors as well. So whether that is sustainable going forward in a scenario where I think the improvement in two-wheeler sales comes through the next few quarters is something to be looked at. So again, clearly I think we are not biased at this point of time. We'll clearly wait for declines onto the stock.
Would you do that as well, Sudarshan? Because in the past, if I look at the charts in January, TVS has shown a penchant of rising about 30-35% in 3 weeks. So is this a climb that you should still climb on, or wait for the bus to slow down?
No, TVS for a short-term momentum trader, it's a buying opportunity, but not today. You cannot buy on the back of a 13% rally in one day. But the stock will consolidate and pause. In the next 5 to 7 days, I would say that it is an opportunity to go long.
Okay, an opportunity to go long in TVS Motor in the next 5 to 7 days. Well, just completing your list, Sudarshan, you have a sell call on Tata Chemicals as well today.
Yeah, the stock is in a trading range. It comes down and we say let's buy it. It goes up 150 points and then it faces resistance, and that's a short selling. Short sell, again a relatively easy short sell. Slowly and steadily it should drift down. There is a sense that the markets are not finding it easy to go up.
Okay. Well, I wanted to finish that power triad that we were talking about when we spoke about NTPC and Power Grid and toss CESC to Amit Gupta. You have a buy there?
It looks better, Lata, because I think this was the outperformer before, and this is not something where generally we see the short covering. It is mainly because of the additions of long positions, and after forming a base around 500, 550, again that formation has come up. Last week also, till last week there was an addition of 15% and another 10% additions we have seen, and the stock remained around 600. So I think we should push the stock further on the higher side. It is possible 640, 655 levels can be seen in this eventually. On the lower side 575 I will keep the stop loss, because that is the same falling trend line breakout level where 5-month high volumes we saw when the breakout came at 575. That was a falling trend line of 1 year, so we should give some credit to 575 for the time being. Till that level is held, I will remain positive in this, at least for 1 or 2 series perspective.
Okay. Well, Mayuresh, do you track a stock called PI Industries?
No, Lata, unfortunately, I think don't track that.
Okay, well, the results were a bit subpar, but the company has been delivering very good numbers for the past several years, or at least several quarters. Is there a chart, do you look at the chart at all, Sudarshan?
Yeah, there is a chart, and the chart suggests that the stock is moving in a trading range for many months altogether. So I don't think it's a buying opportunity.
Okay.
Okay. Mayuresh, in the pharma space, we got some stellar numbers this time from the broader market. So something like an Alembic Pharma had a great run this time, 84% growth in sales. If not Alembic Pharma, any other stocks that you would be recommending in this space?
So clearly, Sonia, I think we did like Aurobindo and Dishman from the mid-cap pharma universe, but both the stocks have moved up quite significantly over the past few weeks and months. So clearly, I think out of the large caps, Sun Pharma is the only stock that we are probably liking from a risk reward and evaluation perspective as well. Lupin's results yesterday were extremely disappointing. So clearly, I think the EBITDA numbers, the PAT numbers were way below what we were estimating. And again, I think the street is now very, very hopeful in terms of what kind of launches that the company can come through. So if you're talking about Nexium launch, you're talking about the kidney treatment launch, which is Renical, you're talking about the cholesterol treatment launch, Welcol, which is expected to come through over the next few quarters. All that probably might help Lupin in terms of how the US business might grow. The OC business is something that needs to grow again at a faster pace. And what is probably disappointed again has been the India business for Lupin. So clearly I think valuations for the space generally are looking a tad bit stretched at this point of time, and those sustainability of earnings will come through for a lot of companies within this universe, considering the kind of currency depreciation benefits that the companies will enjoy, and clearly the kind of launches that one really expects a lot of these companies to get and come through over the next few quarters. I think we remain extremely selective now on this space. So I think Sun Pharma is probably the only stock that we are liking at this point of time from the large cap space in terms of risk reward.
Okay. Well, Sudarshan, I want to ask you about CEAT as well. The numbers didn't flatter yesterday, and while I'll come to Mayuresh on the fundamentals, charts have been peaking off from 1300, haven't they?
Well, you're getting better at charts, Lata. Absolutely. They're peaking off, and now a bearish, I'm repeating the word, a bearish head and shoulder has been confirmed in CEAT. That tells us that some of the darlings of the stock market are now telling us that a sense that they're likely to go through deep corrections. There is distribution. Smart money is probably slowly and steadily exiting. CEAT is no longer a buy. I don't think we want to go short in outstanding stocks of yesterday, but it's certainly not a buy on dips. You just avoid it.
Mayuresh, would you do that too?
Clearly, I agree with Sudarshan totally. I think not at this point of time. Valuations are looking a tad bit stretched for CEAT. And clearly, if you look at the industry structure itself, Lata, I think the imports from China are still continuing at a very fast pace. If you read through management transcripts over the past few quarters, they've raised concerns in terms of how Chinese imports are flooding the markets. And again, I think there's got a huge amount of pricing pressures on the replacement market specifically. Again, I think in terms of re-rating for the stocks, I think a lot in terms of how raw material prices have panned out, in terms of rubber prices staying between that 130 to 135 rupees range per kg. Crude oil derivatives in terms of nylon, etc., I think have come down significantly, but largely related to the price, because a lot of EBITDA margin expansion has fallen because of the commodity price fall that we've probably seen. So clearly, I think in terms of re-rating, I think the numbers should increase at a very fast pace. Yes, I think it is an oligopolistic industry with very few players, and pricing pressures probably would not be witnessed because of the nature of the industry. And again, I think margin expansion is very, very evident. But I think the volume growth in terms of how the retailization for the industry goes through and which stocks to pick is very key. So what we probably like at this point of time within the tire space, Lata, is something like a TVS Sri Chakra, where the risk reward probably still looks very, very attractive, considering the market leadership position that the company probably holds within the two-wheeler market, and specifically the two-wheeler OEM market. The expansion that is happening there, or the margin expansion for TVS Sri Chakra, should be quite evident. And again, I think we will enjoy the benefits of an earnings growth at least for the next 2 to 3 quarters.
Oh yes, earnings have been giving us a lot of blues. So let's blow them away with a talk on United Spirits. Amit Gupta, you have a buy on that?
That is United Breweries,
Lata,
UBL. See, the fact is, if you look at the last month, there was very high delivery buying which happened around 940 levels, and since then the stock came down. But in futures we saw there was no significant closure of long positions. Positional traders remain intact in the long side. Around 85% of rollovers in the last couple of series we have seen. Possibly the reason being that Heineken has bought the stock at much higher levels. So that's why the downside seemed to be limited. But now what we have observed, that the stock has closed above 940 for the last 2 or 3 sessions. It is giving closing above that. Whenever it comes down towards 940, the buying is seen. So my sense is towards expiry and possibly in the next series also, you will see the buying momentum continuing in this, and it may go back to 1040, 1050 levels also.
Okay. Well, Mayuresh, I wanted your thoughts on Oberoi Realty, if you track that one. Today we have the Borivali launch that will finally take place after so many months of waiting, and that's a big trigger for the company. How are you positioned on that stock?
So clearly, Sonia, I don't track the stock, but for the real estate industry, I think we're still liking the NBFC space, the housing finance companies as an indirect play. And yes, I think there's no doubting how the rich balance sheet that Oberoi Realty probably carries. And again, I think the new launches that it probably gets, the land bank that it has got. But clearly, I think we still remain skeptical on the entire industry overall because of the kind of stickiness that one really sees with inventory levels remaining very, very high, the pre-sales not happening at the pace that one really expects. And again, I think within the NBFC universe or the housing finance universe, LIC housing is something that I'll still prefer. I think excellent set of numbers. We still believe that with cost of funds coming down, the yield on investment staying very, very intact, I think the stables and yields should remain intact for LIC, and again valuation is not too demanding at this point of time.
All right, there's news flashing that the Mudra Bank has sanctioned 100 crore refinance line at 10% per annum to SKS Micro. That would be a small advantage. I would assume that Mudra is borrowing from SKS is borrowing from banks at a slightly higher than 10% per annum, which they can replace from the Mudra Bank at the lower rate of 10%. So they must be making 1 or 2 percentage points in terms of margins over there. Good for that company. Well, Sudarshan, SKS Micro, that stock has seen a peaking off, as it were, but at this juncture, will you sell it, buy it?
No, I would not buy it. SKS is again a favorite. It's the NBFC space generally is upbeat, but SKS is giving us disappointing chart patterns. The highs have not been maintained. It's making lower highs, lower lows, breaking support levels. So I would simply avoid it.
Okay. Well, Amit, you have a couple of more strategies. You have a very interesting pair trade, long Ultratech Cement and short Nifty. Take us through that.
See, it is possible that cement stocks may start outperforming the market now, because it has been a different kind of market where every now and then we see the different sectors performing. But what we have observed in the last fall of the Nifty, the cement stocks which were already laggard for the last 1 year, the price-wise corrections was very minimal. Like ACC remained around 1350, 1400 levels, and the same way Ultratech Cement, I think it is trying to form a base around 2850 levels. I understand 3000 has remained quite a stiff resistance for the stock, but my sense is it should take out eventually 3000 levels and should move higher. So if looking at the positional traders positions, they are mostly in the long side in Ultratech, and that is why the momentum comes much higher than the other cement stocks in Ultratech. Yesterday also we saw when the market was little bit lackluster, the Ultratech Cement in the last 1 hour of the show, we saw the stock started moving up very sharply from 2850 again above 2900. I think this move should continue now because it has already consolidated for a long time here and should move again back to 3000, which was the label before the result announcement. So it should move higher. That is the call we are taking above 3000. And if you buy Ultratech Cement and short Nifty, even in the falling market, I don't see that kind of fall coming back into the cement space, and this has been the leader. So on both the sides of the Nifty, this trade of long Ultratech and short Nifty may work.
All right, gentlemen, do stay on with us. We have gone on for a goodish bit and got, I guess, some 40 calls from you people. We have to take a break. As you catch your breath, we will come back with the pre-opening rates and more strategies.
The top 500 company earnings are well analyzed, but the surprise comes from 5,000 odd companies which are actually not part of the top 500. I'll pick up those blockbuster numbers for you on Earnings Pataka every day only on CNBC TV 18.
Government sources indicate that the finance ministry is mulling repealing the
thrust of the terms of reference appears to me to be that the litigation should be reduced to the bare minimum than what is precisely necessary.
As far as Section 9 is concerned, as part of the terms of reference, what exactly is it that the committee will be looking at, sir?
So in the course of the discussions, if something comes up, certainly the committee will be open to consider them.
Express headlines of the hour. Brought to you by Bazaar Express Painting, the faster, cleaner and better way to paint your home.
All right, it's just about half a minute for the markets to give us the pre-opening ticks. So let's just wait by. That's the SGX Nifty indicating a mild red tick, and that is something which we are borrowing from Asia as well. So just wait by and see how things pan out for us. Let's pull up the rupee as well, just to prepare for what the pre-opening rates might throw up. Okay. That's the Sensex and the Nifty, not showing much at all at this point. Now that's a little unbelievable in terms of rates from the Nifty. It's showing a 1.5% down tick. We'll wait for that to settle down. The currency, I think, was 64.96.97 yesterday when it closed 96, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see how things pan out over there. And then we'll get a hang of how the markets are very, very flat as far as the Sensex is concerned, and 2/3% down on the Nifty.
Axis Bank has a huge down. Okay, that's the opening on the rupee, 65.07. So
marginally.
A tad bit weaker. But Axis Bank, Lata, that's the big stock to focus on this morning. In pre-opening, it's suggesting a cut of almost about 10%. I don't think that will fructify. But as we've been telling you, the stressed asset formation, including the asset reconstruction sale and the 525 restructuring, was very high this time, almost 4,400 crores versus 2,400 crores in Q1, and that's really spooked the street. So that's one stock that you need to look at.
I think we shouldn't even show 10%. That's not the way the markets are going to react at all. But there will be perhaps some negativity definitely for Axis Bank, at least initially. Support could come in thereafter. At the moment, even Kane and ONGC are starting lower, and that's logical. We have seen a further fall in crude prices, so there would be some negativity in those stocks as well. I don't think it merits reading the stocks at this point in time, because things are just about settling down. The Sensex and the Nifty are still pretty wayward. I mean, Sensex is down 0.3, the Nifty is down 0.6. So let's wait for the numbers to settle and just brighten up your morning with some fireworks from the earnings space. We've told you a lot of bad news, but in our earnings Pataka segment, our head of research, Varinder, sieves out that one or two companies that have stood out in terms of outstanding numbers for not just one quarter but perhaps couple of quarters, and which you are more likely to miss because they are not the headline grabbing variety of stocks. Varinder is with us. Varinder, what's your Pataka today?
Well, I've picked up two companies, okay, an excellent set of numbers coming at from these companies. Naveen Fluorine is the first one, blockbuster numbers I should say. Net profit up 130% for this company. Total income was up 22% for this company at 151 crores. And look at EBITDA. EBITDA was up 130% for this company, and the margin expansion, you got to look at that. 21% compared to 11.2% for Naveen Fluorine this time. If you have to look out for first half itself, the company commands a market cap of 1,350 crores. In the first half itself, they have done a profit of 41 crores compared to 18.5 crores, which is actually, last full year they did around 50 crores. So they have already done around 80% over the last year, and total income has also moved up 300 crores from 252 crores. The balance sheet also very interesting, because they gave a balance sheet of September versus the March end, where the long-term borrowings have now they stand at nil compared to earlier 11.8 crores. The cash is increasing, and also they have a non-current investment of nearly 200 crores. So I'll certainly keep an eye on this company. The stock is trading around 15 times FY16 earnings, so keep an eye on that. The second company I have picked up, that is in the cement space, Anjani Portland Cement. It's a Chetinand cement company where they have acquired this company 2 or 3 years back. But look at these numbers. Okay, the net profit of this company was up to 33%. Total income was up 25%. EBITDA for this company was up 84%, and the EBITDA margin expanded from 20.8% to 30.5%. So nearly 10% jump in terms of their EBITDA expansion coming in on Anjali Portland Cement. As I said, it's a small cap company, 330 crores market cap. The net profit for this for first half itself is 16 crores compared to a loss of 6.8 crores which was done last year, and FY15 they did a profit of 16.7 crore. So in the first half itself they have done as much as what they did in the entire year, which was FY15. Total income has also moved up from 112 crores to 166 crores. The balance sheet also, where they are reducing their long-term debt, which now stands at 106 crores compared to 166 crores. So clearly both the numbers, especially Naveen Fluorine, blockbuster set of numbers coming in, and keep an eye on all these small or mid-cap cement companies which have actually done very well this quarter.
Oh yes, and the stock Anjani Portland has done exceptionally well this year. It's up almost about 160%. So it seems like the stock has been well identified for its good numbers.
It has.
Mayuresh, any of these stocks you look at?
Sorry, Lata, I think we don't track
right. Okay, we'll let that pass. I think we can look at the markets at this point in time. Okay, still wavered actually. Axis Bank has come down now to a -7%, but the Nifty and the Sensex are still showing very different moves. About 0.6 down on the Nifty and 0.3 down on the Sensex. It's going to be down for sure, but not getting a very clear indication of how bad the gap down opening can be. Sudarshan, any of the cement stocks that you would want to have a strategy on?
Well, yes, actually it's already been discussed. Ultratech Cement has a very attractive chart.
Okay.
It's not yet given us a confirmation that the bull trend is starting, but we can anticipate it. If it doesn't work out, we are traders. We accept that some things will not work out. So Ultratech is a buying opportunity. And while I don't do this ever, there is the possibility of buying Ultratech and selling Ambuja, maybe.
Okay. The famous pair trade. All right, we'll take that, Sudarshan. Mayuresh, I want to ask you about Thermax. The numbers were pretty disappointing. Would you have a comment on both Thermax and the sector itself now?
So clearly, specifically in terms of Thermax, I think if you look at the book-to-bill ratio, I think it's still languishing at that 0.9x kind of revenues that Thermax is generating. Clearly, I think out of the two business segments that it operates out of, the energy business segment has done reasonably well for Thermax over the past few quarters. But again, I think sustainability of margins is a key issue there. The environment segment is something where performance has to improve. And the management itself has been very, very candid that the order flows are probably not coming through. And because of lack of order flows, I think you're not seeing any amount of higher margin orders. And again, I think the revenue visibility itself looks a little bit weak. For the sector itself, Lata, probably I think the same trend probably continues. I think you are seeing orders trickle through, but at what margins? I think you're still seeing execution issues across companies within the sector, whether it be BTG players, whether it be players within the power ancillary industry, whether it be players on the heavy engineering side. So even L&T is facing issues on its heavy engineering segment, and though hydrocarbons has done okay for them the last quarter, I think there are constrained issues in terms of how the order flows are moving, how execution is happening, the working capital constraints. The NWC cycle for L&T is still at a multi-year high of 25%. So I think you're seeing all these legacy issues still panning onto the balance sheet. So we'll remain extremely selective when it comes to the capital goods stroke infrastructure space, Lata.
Okay, well, from the frontliners, you have a couple of stocks that do deserve mention. On one hand, of course, Axis Bank is down about 5% odd. Let's take a look at Lupin. After that 5% cut yesterday, it seems like there is more pain in store. So Lupin is down almost about 0.6% in pre-opening. And on the flip side, Maruti Suzuki is one of your big gainers, posted good set of numbers yesterday. So that stock is up almost about 0.7%. Mayuresh, apart from all the mid-cap earnings that you've seen so far, what would your top recommendations be for the long-term investor?
So clearly out of what has come through, Sonia, at this point of time, I think LIC Housing, as I mentioned earlier, did post a decent set of numbers. We believe the earnings growth should continue. Inox Wind is something where we believe that the numbers were exceptionally good. I think with the kind of capex program that the company has already embarked upon, the kind of order book that it has got, the sites under acquisition that the management is talking about, will lead to margin expansion with more royalty coming onto the books from FY16. We're probably seeing margins staying between that 17.5% or 18% kind of range for the better part of this year and improving thereafter. And again, valuation is not too demanding at this point of time. What I would probably look at in terms of results from the mid-cap universe, I think cement space is something that I'm extremely optimistic about. So JK Cement is something that we'll still continue to like based on its mix of grey and white cement, where realization should improve and the earnings in terms of EBITDA per ton should also see gradual improvement over the next few quarters.
Okay, well, let's speak about something cheerful, if indeed it is cheerful. Tata Motors has been an outstanding performer this contract. Amit, any juice left in that stock till the end of contract?
See, I think it should move up further. I think there is a likelihood that the stock should move towards 450, 460 also, possibly in the next couple of series. And it is better if somebody buys Tata Motors only, because if you look at the gap between Tata Motors DVR and Tata Motors, now we have seen previously, we saw that the discount was very high in Tata Motors DVR. Now that is not there. So if somebody wants to take a call on the stuff, I think you buy Tata Motors only. So on just little bit of profit booking, it is again a buy, because it has reverted from very good levels of the last 2 or 3 years. The base formation, from there it has reverted, and in future there is a clear short covering trend. And I think on the same basis, if you look at the rollovers now which has started, now these rollovers are little lower, so that means the people who were short more, they are reluctant to roll the position to the next series. But still around 60-65% of rolls are there, so that means the short covering trend, if it remains above certain level of around 360, 365, then I think that is likely to continue towards 450, 460 also.
Okay, Sudarshan, a similar question to you. Tata Motors, Maruti, Hero, bulls anywhere?
Yes, Hero is a much easier trade, and I don't know about Tata Motors and Maruti. The markets are slightly confusing to me, so maybe clarity will emerge in the next few days, but as of now only Hero and Bajaj Auto, which you didn't mention, these two stocks do justify buying.
Alright, well, one stock in pre-opening that is taking a bit of a hit is Petronet LNG. We should pull up that stock for you. It's down about 8% in pre-opening. The news report suggests that the company is facing a possible 10,000 crore hit, as it is locked in a formula that makes it pay the highest price of LNG in the world, which many of its buyers are now rejecting. But the company has a take-or-pay contract for gas, which means it is bound to pay its suppliers even if it does not take cargo. So Petronet LNG is down about 7%. Mayuresh, do you track this stock by any chance?
Yes, we do, and I think we've maintained a neutral view for some length of time now, Sonia. Clearly, if you look at the underutilization that you're probably talking about in terms of the Kochi pipeline, I think that is probably not getting reflected reasonably enough in terms of how the earnings visibility for the company will pan out. And yes, I think in terms of the assured offtake, at least on its other units, is concerned, you're probably talking about how the contracts will probably happen. LNG pricing already has hit multi-year lows as well. So I think the spot contracts on LNG probably are much cheaper than what you've taken in terms of the fixed contractual obligation Petronet has done. So again, I think in terms of earnings visibility, we do not see any massive improvement happening, at least for the next 3 to 4 quarters. So clearly, I think we're still maintaining a neutral onto the stock at this point of time.
Actually, the natural gas headlines in the past 24 hours have been extremely negative. BP's profits have taken a hit, and in the US as well, natural gas prices are not seen as even finishing, having completed their bear trend. So one should expect that negative vibes for Petronet LNG should only continue. We will have more questions for our guests, but let's present you our bullseye participants' ideas for today. Our participants are Sharmila Joshi, Kiran Jadhav and CA Rudramurthy. They are battling out for the strongest portfolio for the week, of course, but first let's hear out their picks for today.
Sell CEAT with a target of 1157 and a stop loss at 1184. Buy Dabur with a target of 277 and a stop loss at 267. Buy Alembic Pharma with a target of 675 and a stop loss at 656. By Blue Star with a target of 380 and a stop loss at 367.
First stock for the day would be SRI Pipes, where a stop loss of 317 should be kept and a target of 337 is expected. Second stock for the day would be Cosmo Films, where a stop loss of 240 and a target of 277 is expected. The third stock for the day would be Uflex, stop loss 189, target 204. Fourth stock would be KEI, a stop loss of 103 and a target of 111.
My first buy call is buy Nandan Denim for a target of 142 with a stop loss of 134. My second call for the day is sell Adani Port in futures for a target of 305 with a stop loss of 313. My third call for the day is sell Voltas in futures for a target of 281 with a stop loss of 291. My fourth and final call for the day is sell PTC India for a target of 63 in futures with a stop loss of 65 rupees 50 paise.
Alright, that's a bunch of calls to work from. I guess about 60 of them from 8:30 to now. And let's wait for now the markets to give us the actual opening rates. It looks like Axis Bank is going to take a fairly big thumbs down in early morning trades itself. Yes. It's not 10%, but it looks like it's going to be a 5% cut. The others are largely the commodity stocks. They have not done well globally and they are not doing well here. So Kane, Vedanta, as well as the other commodity related stocks are not doing well, but today banks are taking a very big knock. 1.2% down on the bank nifty in opening rates, and there goes the bell. Okay, so it's starting with a 0.6% downtick as was expected. That was the final pre-opening rates that came on the Sensex and the Nifty. And Axis now is expanding into a 6.5% cut. That's some disappointment. Yes. It was a princely performance that Axis rendered as a stock. So when the results disappoint even a smidge, then you are going to see this kind of a reaction coming from the market. It's been a furious reaction. And the other banks have not done too well either. ICICI and Yes Bank have each lost 1.5 to 1.7%. Bank of Baroda is down 1.4. So it's a big knock coming on the bank nifty, and in particular for Axis and for the two private sector banks, ICICI and Yes. Of course, HDFC Bank has been spared the blushes, which is why the bank nifty is now correcting to a 0.8, 0.9 kind of fall. The markets as well have corrected a wee bit. They started with a 0.6 downtick, now they are down 0.4. So maybe I should read up some of the the cheerful news as well. Kotak Mahindra Bank has not fallen. It's up 2.2% or thereabouts. GAIL is up 0.9. IndusInd Bank again has not fallen, and HDFC Bank hasn't either. That's about 0.8, 0.6 higher for those stocks. Tata Motors is up in the green, 0.4 up. Maruti Suzuki. So the automobile stocks are having a fairly decent day. And maybe we should pull up TVS as well, though it's not a nifty stock. I just want to see whether it's been able to hold on to its performance. No, profit taking stepping in for TVS, but that was a meteoric performance that we saw yesterday. Some profit taking creeping in over there. Among other stocks that are in the green, Bosch, Asian Paints, Tata Motors, I told you, Dr. Reddy's. How's Lupin doing? That stock, is it seeing more reverses after yesterday's bad performance? Lupin down about 1.4. So that's at least the fall is slowing a bit, but the market's still angry that the Q2 performance has not been anywhere near expectation. So that's the story really. On expected lines, 0.4 down, but Bank Nifty 0.8 down with gaps.
Oh yes, and the stock of the day, I mean, you can't take your eyes off from Axis Bank. It's now down almost 7.5%, and for the early moments of trade, huge volumes getting traded, almost 30 lakh shares in one instance on Axis Bank on the downside. And as you were mentioning, the company has also guided for about 5,700 crores of total stressed assets in FY16. So there is an expectation that, you know, things have not bottomed out just yet as far as stressed asset formation is concerned. So that's Axis Bank for you. In the broader markets, there are many stocks that are reacting to weak numbers today. So Thermax, the profits are down 25%. That stock is under pressure. It's down almost about 4.5% now. PI Industries, which has had a very lackluster revenue growth, that one as well is trading in the red at this point, down about 3%. CEAT, where the revenues have fallen about 2% for the company, CEAT is under pressure. Supreme Petrochem, where they've made a loss of 25 crores this time around. Supreme Petrochem is down almost about 6-7%. That stock should also come up for you on your screen in just a bit. Okay, now 14% lower for Supreme Petrochem. So as you can see, a loss coming in from the company. Apart from that, on the upside, you have Alembic Pharma, very good numbers that the company reported yesterday. Naveen Fluorine, as Varinder was telling us, profits are up 130%, so looking quite good over there. And okay, now Naveen Fluorine is up almost about 10-odd%. So that's one of the stocks that you should watch from our earnings Pataka segment, up about 10-odd% over there. And then you have Petronet LNG that's reacting on the downside to that possible hit of 10,000 crores that it could be facing. So Petronet LNG is down almost about 4.5-odd%. But not looking good for the market, Lata. And what's the sense that you're getting about Axis Bank? Because, you know, this is one of the sharpest gashes that we've seen post numbers in a very long time.
Yes, I think it was priced to perfection. That was one problem that the stock definitely carried, and hence the disappointment will be stark. For me, it's also a worry about the other stocks, therefore, you know, ICICI and Yes Bank, because Axis Bank actually managed its assets better. We were getting good news from Axis on the asset front, at least incrementally, and therefore the sudden 4,400 crore of bad news in terms of assets either going to ARCs or being you know, rolled over as a 525 is certainly not well received. We knew about a lot of the 525s, we knew about the Ratnagiris and the Bhushans and the SRs, but perhaps Abhijit one didn't expect, and therefore this gash. Is Mayuresh still with us? Mayuresh, are we buying it even at 489 levels, the Axis Bank?
Well, as mentioned, Lata, I think we do remain optimistic on the stock, but I think one really needs for the stock to stable and settle down. I think, yes, I think the incremental asset addition that has happened in terms of ARC sales and so on and so forth, I think the guidance that the management had given of 5,700 crores, I think that target looks a little bit soft. So I think we'll wait for further corrections onto this.
Sudarshan, Axis?
Well, Axis is not a buying opportunity, it's just fallen. We don't know what the lower levels are and where it can reach. But the other one, HDFC, is in positive territory, and for a day trader, it could represent an opportunity to buy.
Mayuresh, just coming back to that point you made, you said that the target of 5,700 crores of total stress assets looks a bit soft. So what would that indicate? You expect it to get worse by the end of the year?
So again, I think need to understand totally from the management whether they're still sticking on to that target, because I think the market was expecting that if they're surpassing that target in terms of lowering of numbers between 5,700 crores or lower than that, again, I think that looks a little bit suspect at this point of time, the kind of numbers that have probably come through. So I think that disappointment also is getting played out on the stock in terms of how asset quality will pan out. But clearly, as I said, I think the earnings growth should sustain once the credit cycle and the capex cycle starts recovering and the working capital constraints for a lot of the infrastructure companies start easing off. So from a longer term perspective, we remain optimistic on the stock, but let the stock settle down. I think don't need to rush in today to buy into the stock.
Well, that point is taken, Mayuresh. If we are improving in ease of business and if there are green shoots in some of the stocks like a Symphony or like a TVS, surely there is perhaps some turning of the economy, and that should be positive for a well-run bank like Axis. Sudarshan, Mayuresh, Amit, thank you very much for waiting through with us through the pre-opening and the opening trades. Markets settling in at a little less than 0.5% cut, but 8,200 given up. Anuj, would you worry?
8180 is the level that you know, I was watching out for, Lata. Pre-open actually indicated it will be below that, but suffice to say this 8180 to 8225 the zone. But you know, this is now looking a bit tricky for the market. The earnings clearly turning a bit more disappointing, and today's reaction on Axis Bank is telling you that even at lower levels there is selling. In fact, for Axis Bank, I was looking at the charts, Lata, 468 would be the number at which it bounced back from its bear market. So it's almost getting there. So that's the problem point. And even strong stocks are now turning into the red, Maruti for example. But as long as it's holding 8180, I think bulls should still be hopeful of an expiry around 8200 mark.
Okay, there are a couple of other stocks that do deserve mention. There's big profit taking that you're seeing in TVS Motor after yesterday's results. So that stock is down almost about 3% now, and volumes are piling up over there. Profit taking seen in State Bank of Mysore as well, down almost about 2.5% over there. And there's some buying interest that is returning into some of these white goods names like Hitachi Home. So after very disappointing performance and a big knock, that stock is up almost about 1 to 2%.
You know, for TVS, the delivery volume yesterday was really abysmally low. It was only 20% or something like that. So most of the buying that you saw yesterday looked like trading speculative action. Interest, which couldn't sustain today.
Okay, well, the Bank Nifty is improved just a smidge. It was at one point in time down 1.25%. Now it is down about 0.75%. So some bit of recovery over there, but no recovery for Axis Bank. That's the tragic part. For good measure, let's also notice PI Industries. That stock has also lost about 3% on quite distinctly subpar earnings disappointment, though the stock otherwise has done reasonably well. Well, that's how the markets have opened up. Maybe we want to recap some of our technical traders picks.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's get a quick recap of Sudarshan Sukhani's stocks for today. He has 3 sell calls. The first one is on Bank of Baroda, where he places the target at 163 and a stop loss at 171. The next short call is on DLF with a target of 122 and a stop loss at 129. And finally on Tata Chemicals with a target of 405 and a stop loss of 427. He also has 3 buy calls, starting with NTPC, where he recommends a target of 138 and a stop loss at 131, and LIC Housing Finance with a target of 506 and a stop loss of 485. His final buy call is on Ajanta Pharma with a target of 1650 and a stop loss at 1560.
And let me quickly recapitulate Amit Gupta's stocks for you. He has 2 buy calls actually. United Breweries, where he places the target at 1020 and a stop loss at 910. He as well as a buy on CESC, which he has a target of 655 and a stop loss of 575. So those are Amit Gupta's picks for you. And with that, let's just revise the market view. 0.4 down on the Sensex and the Nifty. Mid caps actually now getting into flat terrain. Bank Nifty also recovering just a tad.